Go.
TV20, are we ready?
Hello?
The TV20 is ready.
Yes, okay, guys. We're gonna start recording. We'll give us 1 minute. We're gonna do the switch over. Yep, recording's done.
Tony, during this 1 minute, just a quick housekeeping. Do we have, I got a text. Do we have, does everybody have the
Sorry, switch over.
sign in, the Zoom sign in for tomorrow's council meeting?
Yes, we do.
Okay, you can mute them.
Yes, we do.
How you doing?
Let's resend it just for fun.
Okay.
And then,
I already got it.
Ed, when you cue them, then you turn your mute off, okay?
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm on council now, so I'm down to see I'll be there. I'll try to get around something like that.
Yes,
Okay, and then I'll bring the presentation and everything.
okay.
It's still here.
And,
And,
you guys ready?
Make sure you guys.
We're ready.
okay, and you're on.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Development Planning Sustainability Committee meeting, Tuesday, May 26th, 2020. I'm Councilman Tony Brancatelli, Chairman of the Development Planning Sustainability Committee. I would like to call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Brancatelli,
Here.
Cleveland, Griffin,
Here.
Harrison, Bashir Jones,
Here.
Blythe,
Present.
McCormick. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Madam Clerk, thank you. We have quorum. The Development Planning Sustainability Committee hearing is being held during the COVID-19 emergency declaration in accordance with Ohio's open meeting laws as amended by sub HB 197. This meeting is being held using the Zoom platform and is being live streamed on YouTube and on Cleveland's Channel 20. It also can be seen on Cleveland's City Council website and from Council's Facebook page. In accordance with Ohio open meetings law as amended by sub H 197, notice of this committee hearing was publicly posted. This committee hearing will be conducted as all committee hearings in accordance with the Robert Rules of Order. The chairman will facilitate the meeting and call on persons to speak. If you wish to speak, please use the raise your hand option on Zoom, and please limit your comments to the matters before today's committee. As is the usual practice, any action to be voted on during the committee will be done by voice vote, called and recorded by the committee clerk. Also note that Council Rule 15 requires that all legislation be heard by committee and that members of a committee recommend whether legislation should be passed by full council. As is our usual practice, the vote to recommend will be done by voice vote and recorded by committee clerk as required by the rule. Rule 15 also requires legislative report to the council, which in practice has included committee members' signatures of approval on the legislation itself. For all virtual committee hearings, because the legislation would need to be signed virtually, the practice of signing the legislation by committee members must be waived. The recorded voice vote will constitute the legislative report. With that, I'd like to open up the meeting, and we have a couple pieces of legislation before we get into the presentation by Economic Development. The first piece of legislation, Ordinance 322-2020 by Councilmember Slife, authorizing the Director of City Planning to enter into an agreement with the Board Park Commissioners of the Cleveland Metropolitan Park District for the Old Lorraine Road, West Park, and Cleveland Metro Parks planning study through the use of Ward 17 casino revenue funds. And the remarks will be by the Director and staff. Director, welcome.
Oh, is he frozen?
Oops. Director Collier just frozen place. I did send out 32220, so folks should have that information in front of them. Let me contact the director. I think he's going to reset himself. There we go. Now we have the director back.
Okay. That's okay.
Welcome back.
I'm going to show you a map, a couple of maps. So if it's okay if I share my screen, Council Chairman?
Yes, if we can open up and let him share a screen, please.
Yes.
You should be able.
Okay. So just here, you can see on the screen, this area here that we're focused on is literally Old Lorraine Road. This is the Camps Corners District, Fairview Hospital, who's undergoing some potential significant improvements. We have over here the West Park neighborhood, as you can see, to the lower right-hand corner of your screen. We also have Rocky River Reservation, Big Meat Golf Course, and Little Met Golf Course. This area is rich with assets, and part of the work that we're trying to do is really connect the retail district hospital into this Metro Parks asset to benefit the community. Now, our focus is one of the strategies that we're going to use in order to execute this efficiently, and a big part of why we're having this conversation today under Mr. Slive's leadership here, is really to try to get this done, get it done in a way that's efficient, that makes sense, why the Metro Parks has been engaged. We're going to work them using casino revenue funds. They're going to work, and we're going to identify a consultant who's going to be working on this with us. There'll be considerable actors at the table from the hospitals, the councilman's office, the local CDC, the neighborhood, the Metro Parks, to try to get this accomplished. We're going to be entering into an agreement with the Metro Parks, and we think that this is going to be a very beneficial study for a number of reasons, and particularly around infrastructure, because if you've seen the condition of the street here, I can say Mr. Slife is less than ideal. So this is something that we're just trying to work to get done, and we think it's very important for this section of town to continue to build on the strengths that this community already has. So we're excited about this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I open up to Councilman Slife, do others have any comments that they would like to? I'm looking for raised hands. With that, I will go with Councilman Slife.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm really excited about this piece of legislation. The neighborhood is very fortunate to be bound on its west side by the Rocky River Reservation, but due to topography, there's only a couple spots where you can really get into the park. And incidentally, there was a report last year done by the Trust for Public Land, highlighted 5 census tracts around Cleveland that didn't have access to a park within a 10-minute walk. And this was one of those areas, despite being next door to a park. Old Lorraine Road is pretty narrow. It is owned, property on either side is owned by the hospital in Fairview. It's a pretty tight squeeze, and to figure out how to simultaneously improve that road, but also add a pedestrian access down into the park, I think will be a real asset for the people who live in the Camps Corners area, and including a big part of our community are people who work at the hospital and people who might be able to just go down for a jog after work, or enjoy the park more readily. So I'm very supportive of this, and I'm looking forward to working with all the partners that Director Collier mentioned in order to get this going and figure out how we can get people down into the park.
Great. I know Director Collier and his team have been focused on making those linkages and having that nearness to parks, and have articulated well the importance and value of being linked to green space and to our parks. It's well received throughout our region, and our community members appreciate the administration's focus on this. And thank you for your leadership on this, Councilman Slife. This is an important connector through, and many of us who go down to the park, if you would have zoomed in closer, you'd have seen Council President Kelly's ball in the woods where he shanked one years ago. Last one he probably ever shanked, but yeah, it's a great link to a great asset. There being no further questions or comments, I would like to call a voice vote for ordinance 322-2020. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Francatelli,
Yes?
Griffin,
Yes.
Hairston,
Yes.
Usher Jones,
Yes.
Slight,
Yes.
McCormick.
He can't seem to unmute himself. He gave a thumbs up. Oh, there he is.
All right. I'm sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. A, I'm here for the roll call, and B, yes on that ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinance 322, 2020 passes. Thank you very much, and thank you for your leadership on this, Director and Councilman. And I thought, just as a formal note, if I can please excuse Councilwoman Cleveland's absence. She was not able to attend today's meeting. The next piece of legislation that we have is ordinance number 350, 2020 by Councilmember Griffin to appropriate property for the public purpose of completing public road improvements located at 2275 East 101st Street. With that, we have Commissioner Jamie DeRosa, who is doing the presentation.
Morning, Councilman. This is Matt Sprons. I'll do the presentation. With me today,
Okay.
Commissioner DeRosa, Commissioner of Real Estate. This ordinance declare the necessity and intention to appropriate the subject property due to not being able to reach agreement with the property owner. The properties need to complete the public road improvements. Hudson Avenue and Frank Avenue Extension is a new public infrastructure project from East 101st Street to East 105th Street. This project's is the first phase of Innovation Square Neighborhood Redevelopment Project. Innovation Square project is bounded by Cedar Avenue to the north, East 105th Street to the east, Quincy Avenue to the south, and East 97th to the west. The right-of-way improvements include new concrete pavement, sidewalks, curbs, ADA compliant, curb ramps, and landings, new sanitary sewer, new storm sewers, new water lines, and new power and communication duct banks for this part of the neighborhood. As part of the Hudson Avenue, Frank Avenue Road Extension Project, city needs to acquire these permanent parcel number 121-19-18. The ordinance number 652-18 passed June 4, 2018, as amended by ordinance 197-19 passed March 4th, 2019. The address for this property is 2275 East 101st Street, Cleveland, Ohio. The owner is Annie M. Brooks Todd. Again, permanent parcel number is 121-19-18. The current property is vacant. It's a vacant parcel. The appraised value is $4,600. The city of Cleveland offer to purchase was made on June 19, 2019. And the city has made numerous attempts to contact the owner by mail, phone, and in person to discuss the offer. Appropriation of this parcel is necessary because the owner has not responded to any attempts to contact her. And prior city involvement, Fairfax Renaissance Development Incorporated attempted to contact the owner since 2016 with no response. We do have consent from Councilman Blaine Griffith for this acquisition. And if you look at your attachments, you should be able to see the map that shows the area that we're going to procure for right-of-way purposes. And if you have any questions, we can have those questions now.
Thank you. Director Sprons, do you have a camera on your computer?
Yeah, my camera doesn't work, sir.
Okay, we're gonna have to work with IT on that. We're supposed to be visible during our hearings, but we'll work with that. It's not that we miss your smiling face, but we miss your smiling face. So at this point, I would actually like Councilman Griffin to provide some more details. And Director, thank you for your comments, and I understand the importance in looking at the mapping on the connection. Just to elaborate a little bit more on the outreach that's been done as we're taking this next step. Councilman Griffin?
Thank you so much, Councilman, Mr. Chair. This is a very important project to the entire Ward 6 area. This is on the Opportunity Corridor in the area right adjacent to the Opportunity Corridor. We have plans to put an 85-unit building right there on Hudson Avenue and East 105th. And then we also have about 63 scattered sites of housing that we're trying to put in that footprint as well. There has been several attempts to reach out to this homeowner, or this is actually not a home, this is a parcel of land. The home has been demolished for several years. We have made several attempts from Fairfax Renaissance Development Corporation, myself, City of Cleveland, and others to really try to work with this homeowner. This area has tremendous amount of flooding. It has a lot of other infrastructure needs that it needs to have in that area. And we believe that it would be a tremendous complement towards what we're trying to do in that area. We don't take this lightly. We don't like to appropriate anyone's property, but at the end of the day, we can't be held hostage by one small parcel that is actually really holding up a lot of the progress that we're trying to do in that area over there. So I'm asking my colleagues to support this. Significant amount of outreach, as the chairman has said, has gone in to reach this homeowner. Conversations have been held, and now we're just at a point where we have to move forward as a city. This project has been in the queue for 2.5 years. So it's time to move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I will open up for additional questions on 350-2020. No further questions. Thank you very much, Director Sprons and Councilman Griffin. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Francatelli,
Yes?
Griffin,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Bashir Jones,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
McCormick.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we have 6 yea, 0 nays.
Thank you very much. Ordinance 350-2020 stands approved. Thank you very much for your presentation. With that, we will move on to a very special presentation from Director Ebersol on our economic development, what we would call our stimulus package, relief package, whatever term you want to give it, but just been amazing the amount of work that the department has done, especially given the times and the staffing at City Hall. It's been amazing to see the outreach that goes on through economic development to our small businesses and all the council members who've been actively engaged with this. With that, I'll turn it over to Director Ebersol.
Okay, thank you. Earlier this month, Mayor Jackson outlined 3 economic development programs that we are going to be putting together using some of the funds we'll be getting from the CARES Act, some of our resources, and HUD 108 money as well, to put $10 million into our economy to help support our small business sector. The 3 programs are a working capital program called the Restoration Working Capital Program that will provide loans, depending on the size of the business, up to $100,000 for working capital support. This program is designed primarily for your larger small businesses, mid-sized businesses in the more of the commercial industrial space and the retail space, and is really designed to help provide these businesses with additional capital to meet their basic operational needs in a time where there's going to be a lot of challenges on bringing in revenue, a lot of challenges on getting paid, a lot of challenges within supply chains. And so we're trying to help our larger business community get through that support, because we know that there's so many people who work in those industries. Second program that we've pulled together is the Emergency Working Capital Program. That program is designed on a smaller scale, and there's 2 tranches to that. The initial Emergency Working Capital Programs provides $10,000 loans targeted for most any business in the city to help with simple things like rent, utilities, and those types of working capital needs that businesses are going to have to pay. Even while you're closed down, you still have to pay rent. You're still going to have to pay utilities. Bills come down, but they don't go away. And then as we start to see opening back up, we're going to see, you know, if you have a restaurant and you've got to operate at 50% capacity, your costs aren't going to dial down 50%. They're going to be, you'll have the rent, you'll have utilities, you'll have all these bills that you have to pay to stay open. It's not a dial. So we have a program that provides $10,000 loans, and then for especially impacted businesses, which are those in the restaurants, the retail field, and the personal care businesses. So your service businesses, hair care, nails, salons, that kind of business. They're going to be eligible for a second round of funding up to $20,000, of which half can be forgiven. And this is designed to provide additional working capital need for these individuals and to reflect the costs that these businesses are going to have to invest in personal protective equipment and rearranging their workspaces in order to be operating in a safe and functional way for the time being. We know that a lot of businesses are going to have to wear masks. There's going to have to be a lot of purchasing of gloves. There's going to be a need for partitions. And then some things that you don't even, you wouldn't even think about. If you have a restaurant, a lot of restaurants are going to disposable menus, so one-time use. You get a piece of paper and you put it out the door, and you don't think about it. But if you're hundreds of pieces of paper a day, the costs add up over time. And so we're seeing that there's businesses are going to have to take a hit to operate, and we're trying to help alleviate that hit. So most of those programs will be taking applications for the restoration working capital program and for the second tranche of the emergency working capital program. Those applications will go live tomorrow. We're expecting to receive our federal funding sometime in mid to late June, but we want to start getting the application flowing, getting the review going, and get prepared so that we can get this money out the door as quickly as possible. However, we did put aside $1 million back in April as an initial response, and we started taking applications on April 6th for $1 million of the emergency working capital program. That's the $10,000 loans. And we received a lot of applications, a lot of good applications. And last week we announced the first round of loans that are going to be made under that program, 113 loans, a little over $1.1 million to go out into our business community. My staff's been working since that announcement on Tuesday to pull together contracts, get notices out to people, help them start understanding all the stuff they're going to have to do to put this stuff together so we can work this through the process. We received 300, right now we're at 312 applications under the program, just under $3 million in total applications. And we do intend to get to the remaining about 200 applicants as soon as we can get our additional funding in and try to get them that money out the door. But in this first tranche, we really decided to focus on those what you'd call your Main Street stays. So restaurants, Main Street mainstays, restaurants, your retail businesses, your personal care businesses, because we know for one, they're going to have a lot of impact. They have a lot of foot traffic through, and they were largely forced to shut down or operate as a takeout location if you're a restaurant. And so we knew that they took a lot of hit. And so trying to get that group the money first. So that's how we pared down our 312 that we're at today to 113. So we should be pretty pleased by the uptake. We've seen businesses from all across the city, a lot of places that we all go to that we know and love. And I think it's a great opportunity to try and get out and support these businesses. I want to especially compliment my staff. I've had 4 people from my staff working on grinding through these applications, getting them reviewed, getting them scored, and setting them up so that we can start to get these approvals going. And they've really worked hard processing. In the first 2 or 3 weeks, we were getting 20, 25 applications a day, and staff was really ripping through it and getting them, doing the follow-up and getting them into a position where we can start making some decisions. And the whole staff is going to be engaged now over the next few weeks on getting these contracts out the door so that we can start getting people the money that they need. So looking forward to doing a lot more, obviously, but happy that we're at this point now where we're at least taking the first step down the road to get these awards out and to help our small businesses as they look to open back up again.
Great, and it's just amazing the hard work that your team has been doing, especially since City Hall is only open 2 days a week, 10 hours a week, and a lot of this is very contractual and hands-on. So they're scrambling like crazy to get these done, and I know you talked about hopefully getting the federal funding in late June, and certainly that'll be another push to get dollars out the door. Hopefully folks will be patient and can hang on and leverage what they need to leverage while this is going on. With that, open up the questions. I got Councilman Griffin.
Thank you. So first of all, I just want to thank Director Ebersol as well. I think that he and his team have done a great job. I have spent a lot of time on the phone talking with him, and I thought it's been great. I also want to commend the chair because Councilman Brancatelli, myself, and Councilman Bishop actually had a Zoom call with some of the businesses about a month ago now, and I think that went a long way. It reflects in the amount of businesses that felt confident to apply. I just, have a couple of questions that I really want to try to understand. One is, and I think I've actually this already, Mr. Ebersol, I believe that I've done a letter for all of the businesses that received award, a part of this allocation. Can you let us know the total amount of people that applied per ward and the total amount of people that received in the ward? Because eventually I'm going to have to do some outreach to really help some of the people that did not receive this grant, to really help them understand that there's a second tranche, as well as to make sure that they understand that there was a philosophy that we did this because of the need to really try to take care of the Main Street mainstays as you're talking about.
Just a quick comment on that. Hopefully everybody received the list of all the businesses that were approved in the first round. There was a little over 100. Director?
Yeah. And just for the record, Mr. Chair, you're right. I do have that list. I'm looking at that list.
And I can follow up.
Oh, Director, I think you froze. Try again. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Director.
Yeah, so let me unpack a couple things. So, okay, unpack a couple things. So, as part of our follow-up and getting the contracts out, we will be making sure we have outreach and that we're double checking to make sure we've got the support documents that we need. So individual council members may receive outreach about a group of loans or a small group of loans. I know, I told a couple of people that if, send me an email, that'll work, or let me get a list together. And so we'll make sure we're following up on that as we're moving through. And then I'm happy to follow up with any questions that he has about, their specific ward and who's applying. I would just, make sure that for
Yeah. And on that point, I would like to see the ward and the city, because I think you said that 312 citywide applied, and I didn't see the number of how many we actually received, but it looks like, is that number going to go up? Are we going to get more applications, or are we going to stick with just the 312 that already submitted?
I dropped off for a second.
Okay, just to repeat, I said, I
We're
see
going to
that
keep
312.
taking applications.
Director, can you repeat that again, please? Director, are you going to continue to take applications is the question?
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of, yes.
Okay.
All right, that's good enough. That's good enough. I just want to make sure, Director, and I'll work up and follow up with your office directly because I have about 2 more small business Zoom calls coming up, and I want to be in a position to tell people what's available, that if they have another opportunity to apply, you know, why some people might not have received it, and how we'll make sure that you know, we justify why, or you know, why we made the decisions that we have. And council didn't make those decisions; those were made by the administration, right?
Sure.
Director, you're still breaking up.
Somebody told me my sound was bad, and I had to go get a whole new computer. So maybe they need to get.
I'm gonna try to log in and out.
Okay.
So
Just with that, I just want to let folks know I have Council President Kelly, Councilman Bashir Jones, and Councilman Charles Slife on the list to speak so far.
So if he's having difficulties, then I'll follow up with him, Council Chair, for the sake of time and the fluency of the meeting, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You can move on, Council President. I mean, Council Chair.
Thank you. I'll have Council President Kelly say have a few questions as soon as he logs back, the director logs back on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. While we're waiting for the director, it's pretty clear that he should probably move into Old Brooklyn and use the Old Brooklyn Connect signal from right now. So, but if he has to live somewhere else, maybe we can help him out another way.
Well, unfortunately, he's doing it from City Hall, so.
Oh,
That's even better.
There's the problem right there.
If he needs to log into council's access, that might help him, so.
Yes, yes.
Our Wi-Fi is doing strong. Thank you, John. There we go. We got the Director Ebersol back up, and we have Council President Kelly next up.
Thank you. Director, are you at City Hall?
Yep.
Director, you at City Hall? Got to get some work on your Wi-Fi on your side of the hall.
Yes.
So, no, I don't want to take up a lot of time, Mr. Chair. I just want to just chime in and just make sure that we all acknowledge that this program was, you know, something that was put together quickly in an effort to get money out the door to businesses that are struggling. And I just want to really acknowledge the work of the director and his staff, because, you know, when we heard about the Paycheck Protection Program and all the money that was going to very large businesses, and it was very hard for small businesses. When you're dealing with small businesses, a lot of times they don't have audited financial statements, and they don't have a lot of the financial tools that you need to make, you know, informed decisions. And you know, the director and his staff really worked with businesses where they were in terms of what they had to make an assessment of whether these funds would be helpful to them or they needed them. So I would say that, you know, for a program that was put together with a bit of haste in response to the pandemic, accepting applications and getting money out the door, getting applications approved, I think they've done a great job. And more than anything, I just want to acknowledge how difficult it is when you're dealing with small businesses that might not have perfect records, that might not have, they can't call their accountant and say, can you please forward last year's statements. They might not have perfect payroll records. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, Mr. Chair. I want to just let the director know that it's appreciated, and tell his staff that all their work is appreciated. The people at Lego Heads Barber and Urban Cuts and the Wine Bar are much appreciated for all the effort that you did. So that's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Councilman Bashir Jones.
Thank you, Chair. And I echo that. I can't imagine what it feels like to be in that particular position during this time. And I believe that everyone is doing the best that they could do. I really do believe that. The question I have, Chair to the Director, is that I have a lot of businesses within my ward that, particularly for my first question, in Asia Town. And a lot of those restaurants and businesses are, number one, just weary of giving away their personal information. And then secondly, just not having a full grasp of the language to even know what's going on. Just Friday, I went over to Sam Cafe and ordered some food just to show some solidarity with our Asian American residents. My question is, for businesses that may not have a good grasp of the English language, are we sending anyone over to work with them, to assist them with filling out any applications? How are we taking care of that group?
Sure. So that's a little bit of a challenge right now because we're not able to send anybody out to talk to anybody. We've relied a lot on historically on the community relations in the past to help kind of facilitate those conversations. I think the Asia Town community is probably a tough one. It's probably one we're a little bit light in if you look at where the applications have come from. And so that's an area where I'll take a look at and see what we can do to help maybe strengthen our outreach efforts in that area and make sure that we're touching the right, touching businesses that might be needing it. I think to some extent we're going to have to get people comfortable with the information barrier. Have seen that just throughout my time here at the city, where there have been businesses who at the finish line have decided not to go forward because they couldn't give us information that or didn't want to give us information that we felt we needed to do proper due diligence or were required to do proper due diligence. So that's something that we're just gonna have to work on. But on the communication side of things, I think that's something we can make sure we're trying to push out here in the next.
Yeah,
week.
if you can get in contact with Director Epstein over at Midtown, we actually hired two community organizers who are fluent in the language. If you can reach out to them, because what I would hope doesn't happen. This time period also gives us almost like a restart, so to speak. And with that restart,
Councilman Jones,
we
I
in the
think you
same
froze up.
practices. Am I good now?
You're good. Thank you.
Okay. What I would hate for us to do is engage unintentionally in the same practices that have left some businesses behind in the first place. So just like Councilman Griffin said, I'm very interested in seeing what is the businesses citywide that have been getting support, and how do we fill in the gaps where possible. I have a lot of smaller businesses in my neighborhood, and we got a couple, and I'm not sure if we got a couple because many didn't apply, or did the administration look at a certain part of the city and say, hey, this is a part of the city that needs more support? How did those choices take place?
Sure. So what we basically did was we did an analysis of the application. So we took a look, and as part of the application, businesses were required to indicate what their projected negative impact from the coronavirus closures would be. They had to outline a plan for restarting and growing back to their businesses, to resuming operations in the the compromised, say, environment that we're in right now. And Then we did a review of financials to determine that the business was a viable concern. We did a review of credit to make sure that we had borrowers that showed did not show a lack of willingness to pay. We're pretty credit friendly as far as it goes, but the red flag is that we look for when we do credit review is people who have a history of taking out loans and not paying them back, especially a recent one. So that's what goes into what went into our analysis with our review for eligibility, and then we at that point we had 280 or so businesses at the end of May 1st to the end of April. And we had to figure out a way to cut that number down to right around $1 million, which was the money we had allocated and available. And in order to get to that cut, we took those restaurants, retail businesses, and the personal care businesses that we felt had gotten hit the hardest and were our most vulnerable businesses and play such a key role in our Main Street operations. And that's what got us down to our list of 113. So in general, if you applied early, if you had, and you got us the information that we needed to follow up, and you fell within that business category, you in all likelihood received funding in this round.
Thank you so much, Director. Chair and President Kelly, I would ask that a couple things, that we're really paying attention to what businesses are getting support, as well as how the city is spending money at this point in time and with who they're spending money. I think that this is of course, I think we know that this is an unprecedented time, but at some point we will come out of this, and together we will come out of this. But what I would hate is that we come out of it with the same inequity that we went into it with. And I really would like to see the specifics of who is getting support at this time, as well as what businesses are not only what businesses are getting support, but what businesses are getting hired at this time to facilitate some of the services that the city needs. I think that this is a time for potential. I think this is a time of extreme potential. I think that businesses can do well. I think up and coming businesses can come out of this, being very successful. And even though the house has come down in a sense, we are able to rebuild it on a foundation of equity. So I really would like to see if that's possible, citywide, what businesses are getting support and who are we doing business with at this time in regards to how we're spending money in particularly with companies that are providing these health resources of COVID-19. So thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Thank you for your ongoing advocacy. Councilman Charles Slife, then Councilman Anthony Hairston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Director, when you dropped off for a second, Council President Kelly was trying to recruit you to Old Brooklyn for the internet, but I'll let everyone know that Director Ebersol is a proud West Park resident. He's staying. Just thank you for all your work. And I know the businesses in Ward 17 that were approved, we're just beyond excited to get that news. It's been a stressful time for everyone. So I'm excited to see that, but also that this program is moving forward, continuing. Question through the chair to the director. I know, so working capital hasn't historically been an eligible use for city dollars, and kind of in light of the scale of this pandemic, there was kind of a temporary change of policy. I believe that historically daycares also haven't been eligible for city funding. Am I correct in that?
Correct.
And has there been any discussion of if that would change or whether or not it could change?
I think in response to the pandemic, we would take a look at it. I think when we're looking at a longer term policy change, that's something we would have to consider.
Okay, thank you. And I think in response to the pandemic, that's important with the, trying to maintain social distancing among kids. I know I've heard of daycares that are, really realizing how tough it's going to be and having to even increase costs in order to, in order to make these requirements happen. And I have this fear that as we're reopening and we're getting people back to work, that we could be hamstringing a lot of people who might feel that they're not able to get back to work because of just the realities of childcare. And I think we all know more often than not, the burden of childcare tends to fall on women more than men, and it's a problem that can really have escalating. It can escalate and cause more problems. And I just think it's something that we should be cognizant of, and that we should be, trying to assist to the best of our ability, given the times that we're in.
Yeah, understood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Anthony Hairston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the chair, to the director. I also echo my colleagues that yourself and your department staff, Robin Brown and Kevin Smosser, has and continue to be phenomenal in the work that they do to support our businesses and helping them understand what's available to them, and especially during this hard hit time. Some of my questions have been answered. I too had a concern about, well, not a concern, but just questions about how we arrived at the list of recipients that were approved to receive funding on this first round. Was it a first in approach? Was it a first in plus this, plus this, plus this? And it seems that we've had the first in plus some other factors looking at credit worthiness, and happy to hear that we are being a little more lenient in terms of credit, and not looking for one or two unpaid or one or two paid collections, but really looking at some deeper issues that may exist. And when I spoke with the department, a couple of the staff did indicate that if you all come across some of those issues, you all are committed to still working with that business to determine other ways to support them, which was a good thing, because we know that sometimes not every business has a squeaky clean record of maybe paying or reporting due to circumstances beyond their control. So the fact that we are still finding ways to work with them is great. And so the administration and your office and the council together helping our businesses pull through this tough time. Councilman Jones mentioned something very important, and that's equity. That this council along with the administration must pay attention to equity when determining who we are supporting for these working capital loans, and as we move into the second phase of this. And I really hope that the administration, along with consideration and input from this council, that we strongly look at other communities that maybe had not been served at a level as others for this first round as we get into the second round of businesses. A lot of our inner city communities, east side communities, we have a plethora of, barbershops or beauty salons or personal care professionals, as you all call them, who I personally can tell you who still need some help going forward, and whatever that we can do for them, they will be greatly appreciative of that. So just making sure that equity is at the top of our list for those businesses that we are supporting, who are what you call on the main street, but also, as Councilman Jones said, that those that we are contracting to do business with as well for us. And so that is also important. We have a number of businesses within the city who are Black and brown and Asian, who can provide some resources that we are looking for to support us during this pandemic as well. So again, Director, to your staff, thank you for all the work that you are doing. I also received a couple businesses in the ward received funding, and you and I spoke quickly through email. You got back to me about what do we need to do to ensure that those the others who had applied receive funding as well. So, Mr. Chair, I know we are working through our time diligently here due to some technical difficulties. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other hands raised, so I want to thank you, Director, for all your great work. I know we have a lot of challenges, and it is a balancing act of as many applications as you get, trying to figure out who's both eligible as well as trying to figure out what demand fits where. And I know you've added additional funding and additional federal dollars are coming in. So it's great to see the city itself, the administration step up and really work hard towards getting these done and getting them done as quickly as possible, which really is going to help both our economy and keep these businesses stable and open. So thank you for that. And thank you for the presentation. I know we have a number of meetings that are coming up that really have been speaking around a lot of the different issues. I know Councilman Griffin, you're going to be leaving shortly for Healthy Kids Advocacy. Is this a presentation today? Do you have a presentation today at noon? Maybe I might have my calendar wrong.
I'll double check. I thought that was another day, but we'll figure that out.
Okay. And I know this Saturday, United Way is doing a workshop around lead safe and working with our landlords. So they're going to have that going for this Saturday. So there are a lot of opportunities to be engaged outside of our normal block club meetings and civic group meetings that are going on. And certainly want to thank our council staff and team. I know we've been getting quite a handle on how we have to have these going. And so I appreciate all the heads up. And I certainly appreciate all the work that legal's been doing and making sure we're on top of how we vote. So that's been going well. I know we have a pretty busy council meeting tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Council President, if you wanted any comments on the council meeting.
Yes, thank you. So we're going to have, tomorrow will be a council meeting and we're going to be clearing out some things. Wait, one sec. Hope you can hear me.
Gotcha.
Yes. And then the following Wednesday is going to be a little more complicated. So we're going to have committee of the whole first, and then we're going to roll right into the council meeting like we do in our normal summer sessions. So, you know, tomorrow is really going to be getting the essential legislation passed to get us through for a couple of weeks. There's a couple of bond pieces that are coming through that we need to get introduced and passed. There's our tax schedule that we have to get approved into the county. I know we have to get the legislation we just heard today passed. And there's a number of things that we have to get done. There are council members that have casino fund requests that need to go through the process. So I'm looking at tomorrow more as we're gonna actually take voice votes. It's going to be a real council meeting. We're going to suspend certain rules, but it's going to be an actual meeting. And the following Wednesday, we're going to do just like we do for a normal summer session by doing a committee of the whole, and then we're going to roll right into the council meeting. So we'll see how all this works. I appreciate everybody's patience, and you know, very thankful to staff for helping us come up with these solutions.
Great, thank you. And if we can remind our colleagues of make sure we check in 15 minutes early as we start our meetings, and make sure you're at a seated location, not driving in your car, and dressed appropriately. So with that, I will call this meeting to adjourn. Thank you all very much.